Hello everyone, welcome to my channel, and if you are new, my name is Chris. If you are a returning subscriber, thank you so much for supporting me. I really appreciate it. Today I will be doing my luxury rose fragrances. Yes, I did my affordable rose fragrances back in February, and I'm finally getting around to doing my luxury rose fragrances, which means any fragrance that has a prominent note of rose that is $100 or more. I have them from $100 way on up to not $100. And I think I have 12 for you. So I've narrowed down the list to 12. So if you are interested in seeing what I've picked today, keep watching. The way I'm going to list these fragrances, I'm going to list them based on cost. So the ones starting right at $100 and going all the way up on the far end, far away from $100. So the one starting my list comes in right at $100, and it is called Rosefire by Hermetica. Now, if you don't know anything about this line was started by the people behind Memo Paris. And they have something called green technology that's in this bottle, and everything they do in this line is based on green technology, being cruelty-free, being very innovative. So, and they do not use alcohol, so there's no alcohol in their fragrances. So the bottles are recycled, the packaging is recycled, and they have created these fragrances such that the top notes and the middle notes come out at the same time, which is very, very different than typical fragrances, which, you know, as we know, top notes, middle notes, and the base notes evaporate from the skin at different times. So there's different experience with the fragrance. And this fragrance is based on red roses and Turkish delight. So as you can guess, it is a very sweet fragrance. And most of the fragrances that I chose today are very polarizing. It's really, you either are going to love them, like them a lot, or really not care for them. I think I have two that are pretty likable. This one is, I think, in my opinion, pretty polarizing because it's very, very sweet. So there's three notes in here. There's red roses, there's something called Divana, and there is violet. So the red roses and the violet notes are very, very sweet. I would call them a candied sweetness. It's incredibly sweet. There's a difference between like a candied sweetness and a vanillic sweetness, in my opinion. And this is a candied rose and a candied violet. Extremely sweet. Now, I don't have a whole lot of experience with the note of Divana, but what I get, besides the rose and the violet, I get something that smells like wine and like a fruity black tea. So I get very sweet candied rose, a very sweet candied violet, and a wine fruity black tea accord. So I like it. I have to be in the mood for it. And if you don't like sweet fragrances, don't even look at this bottle. It will not be up your alley. But what I like about this is I've actually taken it to work a couple times with me. In my profession, I'm washing my hands constantly. I'm putting antibacterial gel in my hands constantly, so my hands are constantly dry. So it's really nice. You can kind of spray. You actually can spray in your hands and rub them together, and it's actually very moisturizing. So it's almost like a scented lotion, but you get a perfume out of it. So yeah, pretty neat fragrance, very sweet. Rosefire by Hermetica. The next one retails at a very high price. I was very lucky to get it with a discount code, just over $100. I think it was about $125. This is very, very new to my collection or my fragrance wardrobe. I've only had this, I got this last week, and it is by the exclusive line by Carolia Herrera, and it is called Rose Cruz. Now this is one of the very few rose fragrances that I think is not polarizing. This is one of the most likable rose fragrances in this bunch, and I think it's very, very versatile. But when I first smelled it, I immediately thought of a fragrance that I have spoken of before, and that is Jardin Rouge by the House of Luban. If you have that fragrance, you do not need this one. They're very, very similar. I happen to love Jardin Rouge, so I'm okay that I have another fragrance that smells a lot like it. There are some differences, okay? So they both have rose and black currant. You'll smell that right in the beginning. This one also has peony, and peony is another one of those fantasy notes. They cannot extract that from the flower, but it smells like a rose. It just smells a little bit soapier and crisper. That's what I get. The peony note smells crisper and a little bit more soapy. Not quite aldehydic, but a little crisper, a little soapier. And Jardin Rouge has more sandalwood. It has other notes. It's a little bit sweeter, a little bit more fruity. But this is actually very, very nice. It has a nice crisp musk to it, which kind of adds to the crispness, lifts it up a little bit. And it dries down. I think there's a little note of cedar, but it's very soft, very airy, very light. I think if you like rose fragrances, it's incredibly likable. I actually wore this out to dinner with friends last night because I'm very careful the fragrances I choose for dinner. I do not want anything that's going to overwhelm anyone and kind of ruin their dinner because I have an overpowering fragrance. This was just enough that once I gave everybody a hug, they could smell. They said, "Oh, you smell so nice," but they could not smell me until I got that hug in. So perfect for a date night, going out to dinner. It's very, very light, very inoffensive. I think this would be office appropriate. The downside, it's very, very quiet. It does not last very long unless you really like coat yourself, like shower yourself in it. If you don't shower yourself in it, it's going to last about 2 to 4 hours. And I'm perfectly fine with that, particularly in the summer. So yeah, a good pickup that I enjoy, just over $100. That's Rose Cruz by Carolina Herrera. Next up is one of 2 gourmand roses I have in this list, and it is by the house of Onui Nomad, and it is called Jardins de Misfa. I think I've spoken about this briefly in one other video, but this fragrance has a prominent note of date in it. So this has date, this has rose, this has almond, this has saffron, this has nutmeg. I think that's basically it. Yes, beautiful, beautiful rose, date, almond fragrance. The date in this has the perfect amount of sweetness. I think it's absolutely perfect. The rose that I smell in this is rose water. I'm very familiar with what rose water smells like, and it smells like rose water. And there is a beautiful almond note. I don't like all almond notes. The almonds that are bitter, I don't like those. I like sweet, creamy, marzipan-y. Those are the kind I like. So perfect almond in here. So those are the 3 notes that I smell. The other notes are way, way, way in the background, and I love this fragrance. It's just the house of Onui Nomad. I think they're kind of notorious for, if you're familiar with that house, they're wonderful. Their fragrances are wonderful. They smell so good. They don't last forever. I think the longevity is not stellar. This one I can get about 4 hours with, and I wore this more in the cold. I would have no problem wearing it in the warmer months because I think it would work perfectly fine. I tend to wear this, spring. I'll probably wear this in the fall, and probably date night in the warmer months. So yes, so that's Jardins de Misfa. So one of the benefits of filming late at night in the summertime is I have a built-in soundtrack that right outside my window. Apparently, every frog in the neighborhood comes to my pool and parties. I guess it's a frog disco. So you will hear that from here on out for the rest of the video. I do not charge extra for that. Moving on is the next fragrance on my list, and it is another rose gourmand fragrance, and it is by one of my favorite houses, the House of Tower, and it is called Fille en Rose de Kandahar. I've talked about this in a couple of other videos, so I'm going to kind of scoot through it pretty quickly. But yeah, in my opinion, this is a gourmand take on rose, and it's pretty unique. Yeah, so the reason why this fragrance has its name, Fille en Rose de Kandahar, Kandahar is where the rose oil was procured from. And it's very high quality, it's very, very rare, and it smells quite beautiful. So this fragrance has that beautiful rose oil in it, but it also has some other gourmand notes that give it a nice sweetness. There's apricot in here, there is cinnamon in here, and there's almond. And they're all really kind of seamlessly blended. You really can't pick out the notes, but you can smell that the presence is here. In the dry down, there is apparently some blonde tobacco. I'm not sure if I really get that. What I smell more is just amber. I smell amber and a little touch of incense. I don't think incense is in here. I smell a touch of incense or a tad smokiness. So yeah, it's a beautiful gourmand take on rose. I absolutely love it. It's gorgeous and it has pretty good longevity. I can get about 4 to 6 hours from this fragrance, and I think this was $160. And I got this directly from Andy Tower, his website. And if you order from his website, he sends you gobs and gobs of samples, so there is a benefit. It is a little bit tougher ordering overseas, but if you can make it happen, he's really good about sending samples. So yeah, Fille en Rose de Kandahar. The next one up is what I would consider my Gothic rose, and it is by the house of Carner, Barcelona, and it is called Rose and Dragon, and I'm still trying to embrace this fragrance for what it is. It has some challenging notes in here. I am a diehard rose fan. This is kind of testing my my love. So yeah, notes that I don't like animalic notes. Not a big fan of animalic notes. I can do leather, but not when it's overpowering. And this has a couple animalic notes in it besides the rose. So the notes in here, there's 2 types of rose. There's an incense. There's a spicy incense. There is honey in here. And there is a strawberry that to me is so ripe that it's almost rotten. So it is a very overripe strawberry. So you've got overripe strawberry, you have honey, you have incense, and 2 types of roses. And where it gets difficult, or the challenge comes in, is there is leather and castoreum, 2 animalic notes. So definitely, in my opinion, to my nose, I get some sort of funkiness. Almost like, I don't know, like wet fur. Sometimes I get like a wet fur note. A little bit of amber in the dry down. I do not wear this that much. Every once in a while I will pull for it. And I don't love it, but it's a like right now, and I'm trying to embrace it. But yeah, so if you like those animalic notes and rose, it might not be as challenging, but it's a challenge for me. It's a challenging rose fragrance, and I am learning to like it. So who knows how long it will stay in my collection. I think when I hauled it back in March, I was saying that it was skating on thin ice at the time, and I still have it, and I've been through a couple of declutters, so it's hanging in there. Rose and Dragon by Carner, Barcelona. Next up is what I like to refer to as my bam in your face statement maker rose fragrance that will get you noticed, and it is by Titzana Terenzi, and it is called Porpora. So this is a huge in your face rose patchouli fragrance. This is 80% rose patchouli, very, very strong. There are other notes in here, but the other notes are way in the background, and those other notes are resins, amber, and I believe raspberry, but it is basically rose patchouli. It's very similar to Portrait of a Lady, in my opinion. I think this is like the kid sister, the younger sister, the half sister of Portrait of a Lady. Both of them are big, big rose fragrances. This one, to me, is just very glamorous. I would wear this if I wanted to get notice. I would wear this at a red carpet event. You know, all the red carpet events that I go to. I would wear this too. If you want to turn heads, I would wear this. This is going to get you noticed. If you like to be kind of quiet and in the corner, and if you want to sneak up on someone, for the love of Pete, don't choose this one. This is not the fragrance for you. But this one is, if you want to be a center of attention and you want someone to ask what you're wearing, it's this fragrance right here. This was in my my powerhouse fragrances for a reason. It's big and it lasts all day. I can get like 8 to 10 hours with this beauty. So big, big, big rose patchouli fragrance. And I don't remember what I paid for it, but it was, I don't know, maybe somewhere in the 200 range, I think. But yeah, it's Porpora by Titzana Terenzi. Next one up is one of my very favorite fragrances in my entire fragrance wardrobe. I have had people ask me to do a top 10 video, a desert island fragrance video. I can assure you this next fragrance will absolutely be in that video. It is, to me, the perfect rose patchouli chypre. I love everything about it. And it is called Gris Dior by Christian Dior. Like I said, this is just a perfect rose patchouli chypre. So, like all chypres or ships, it has a citrusy opening. In this one, it's bergamot. So you have bergamot, you have rose, you have patchouli, and you have oak moss. There is just something about this fragrance that I absolutely love and I find incredibly intoxicating. I never get sick of this fragrance. There is so much that goes in, for me, to picking a fragrance every day. It should be simple. I make it so complicated. I make it way overcomplicated, and it depends on what the weather is like. Is it cold? Is it hot? Is the sun out? Is it raining? Is it snowing? What color am I wearing? Am I wearing yellow? Am I wearing navy? Am I wearing a dress? Am I wearing pants? Seriously, all that kind of craziness goes into me picking a fragrance. That's how my brain works. So I make it more complicated than it needs to be. And because of that, I could be running on time for work, and then when it comes to picking out my fragrance, I'm staring at them getting overwhelmed because I don't know which one I'm going to pull. But this one is not like that. This is the easiest pull. It could be any weather. I could be wearing anything. It could be raining, snowing. It doesn't matter. This one works in all situations. So it's gorgeous, very versatile. It has a beautiful projection. It has a stunning sillage. It has a fabulous longevity. It's just great performer. I cannot say a bad thing about this fragrance. I adore it. I love it. Cannot imagine my collection without it. Gris Dior. Next up is definitely one of my more polarizing fragrances. Had I not smelled the soap first, and had I not had the soap first, I never would have given this fragrance a chance, particularly if I had smelled it from the atomizer. From the atomizer, it does not smell good. And it has a very challenging opening, but fortunately I was patient and I worked through all that, and I had the soap first and I fell in love with the soap, so I gave the perfume a chance, and I'm glad I did. I've had it for a long time. In fact, I know I've had it since 2014 because Labo makes you labels. So yeah, this is Rose 31, not for everybody, and I call this my spicy, dirty, wet rose. If you smell this from the atomizer, you probably won't, well, there's a good chance you may not like it because it has a very prominent note of cumin. And the cumin, in addition to spices, is there for the first 15-30 minutes. So I'm really glad I sprayed this. I walked around for about a half an hour, and I thought, oh, this is not for me. This smells very different from the soap, which it does. It does smell different. And after about half an hour, I thought, wow, that smells really, really good. And I picked up a bottle and I've had it ever since. Yeah, so the first 30 minutes are challenging. There's cumin, I think there's clove, there might be some allspice, maybe some nutmeg. So very spicy. It smells kind of like my brothers do after they play basketball and a shish kebab. That's what it smells like right up front. So you got to work through that in the beginning. After that, it smells fabulous. It is a beautiful rose that has patchouli in it. It has a little bit of oud. It has some cedar. It's absolutely beautiful. Yeah, maybe a little bit of incense in the dry down. It's gorgeous. The dry down is beautiful. And every single time I wear this, I get compliments. I get compliments from people who do not like perfume. And this is the fragrance I always wear when it rains, because this just smells to me like a very wet rose. A rose that has been rained on and maybe flopped in the garden, gotten the dirt, but still very natural. So it's gorgeous. And when I wear this, without fail, I get, you smell so good, you smell nice and light. That's what I get. You smell so good, you smell nice and light. So working through the first 30 minutes, and then it's just really, really pretty. But it is light, and it lasts about 4 to 6 hours. So yeah, as you can tell, I'm an undersprayer. I've had it for a while, and I don't wear it all the time. You know, I wear it usually in the summer, and if it rains, that's my go-to. So Rose 31. Next up is another fragrance that's not for everybody, but I find it very, very beautiful. And it's by Penhaligon's, and it is called Cairo. So this fragrance to me is equal parts spices, woods, and rose. And the rose in here is supposed to be soaking or marinating in beautiful spices and woods. And that's basically what I get. It's really, really beautiful. It also has saffron in it. There is incense in it. Very detectable. There's patchouli. The patchouli is pretty heavy in this one. And as it dries down sweet. So this is a deep, rich, incensey, woody fragrance with a beautiful dark rose running throughout it, and a beautiful vanillic sweetness in the dry down. I love it. Like I said, this is probably a love or a dislike. Like most fragrances, I happen to absolutely love this. When I wear this, I just feel like $1,000,000. It's just a very rich fragrance, a very rich, elevated fragrance, and I love it. And it's fairly new to my collection, and I'm super happy. So that's Cairo. The next fragrance might surprise people that it is high on my expensive side of the list. And if you got this fragrance at a reasonable price, consider yourself very lucky, because I did not. Now this fragrance I'm talking about is by Elie Saab, and it is called Essence Number 1 Rose. It is by one of my favorite noses, or my favorite perfumers, Francis Kurkdjian. In my mind, he can do almost no wrong. I blind buy some of his fragrances because I love almost everything he does. Not everything, but many, many fragrances he does I absolutely adore. This fragrance I really, really wanted last spring, so spring of 2020. And at that time, you could not find it. The only place you could find it was eBay, and I don't like to get fragrances that I have never smelled before on eBay, because I don't know. There's a lot of, fakes on eBay, and I don't know what it smells like. So I wanted an authentic bottle. I searched high and low. I looked for months. You could not find one. So I finally got this from the boutique on Madison Avenue in New York. I don't even want to tell you what I paid for it. I paid full retail price, and it was north of $200, and that's all I want to say. you know, you have some wins and some losses, you know, in when you buy fragrances. And, you know, this one I did not, it wasn't one of those where I got a really good deal, but that's okay. I love the fragrance and I baby this fragrance because of the story behind it. Anyway, so some rose fragrances might be considered simplistic. A few of the ones in the list, I can think of maybe the Carolina Herrera one. This one to me is not. This is a very complex fragrance, even though if you look at the notes that are listed, it only lists 4 notes and there are 4 different types of rose. I get much, much more than that. So let's spray it. So when I first spray it, I get a very sweet, syrupy, deep rose. And pretty soon after that, I get some sort of green note. And the green note in here is different than typical green notes I talk about. When I think of green and crisp. This is a dark green. This is almost like the dark green leaves were just kind of crumbled up and put in the fragrance. It's green, but it's dark and it's still sweet. So you have this dark, sweet rose, syrupy rose with a greenness. It's just a little bit bittersweet. And then about 30 minutes later in the dry down, that syrupy, deep, syrupy rose, I still get, but I get incense and amber and spices. That's what I get. And it is to me, a luxurious fragrance. And I don't know if it has anything to do with, you know, how much I paid for it, but it's just the juice. The fragrance smells like the juice. It's very deep. It's very luxurious. It's very rich. When I wear this, I am dressed to the nines. I got the Gucci belt on. It is, yeah, this is not a casual fragrance in my experience. So beautiful. This is the one that when the video's over, I'm going to put it back in its box and in my closet. I baby this fragrance. So if you got it at a really good price, and I know that I've seen it around at the discounters and my heart kind of breaks, but I'm just happy that I have it because I enjoy it. It's a really, really lovely fragrance. And yeah, I take really good care of this one. So yep, that's Essence number 1 by Elie. All right, we're getting down to the last 2. So that means we're getting into the real frou-frou fragrances. So the next one is by Maison Francis Kurkdjian. I think you know what it is. And like I said, he can do almost no wrong. I love most of his fragrances, not all, but most of them. And I got this bottle. So this is Oud Satin Mood. I got this bottle, I think maybe a year and a half ago, and I got it in the travel sprays, and that was just perfect for me. That was enough. I used the travel sprays and that was it. And then I ended up getting a bottle of the Nina Ricci Rose Extase Absolute, and I remember thinking, wow, this smells so similar to Oud Satin Mood. And loved it. And then when it came time to really having to differentiate between the two and give a review on the Nina Ricci, I thought, well, I better have them side by side so that I can really tell the difference or pick out the nuances. So I ordered a couple of decants and they're very, very similar. If you have the Nina Ricci one, you don't need this one. It's a fabulous alternative to this one, which is very expensive. But the differences are, the main differences, this one has a noticeable oud, the Nina Ricci one does not, and this one is sweeter. Other than that, they are very, very similar. Anyway, I just remember how it smelled and I got the bottle again. So here we are. This one is, I think, another polarizing fragrance. I think it's you either love it or you do not like it at all. And the main reason, I think, is the opening. The opening, the opening can be a little bit challenging. That's when the oud to me really kind of comes out. So the opening, I do get a kind of a scratchy oud. Yeah, the oud is prominent. It's a little scratchy. And about a half an hour later, about 30 minutes in after the spray, that kind of opening that I don't love, the scratchy oud, kind of goes away. And then I am left with this beautiful, syrupy, sweet, rose, vanilla, violet fragrance. The violet brings some sweetness, and it does bring some powderiness to the fragrance. The rose to me is this beautiful syrupy rose. It's absolutely gorgeous. On me, it gets sweeter as the day progresses, so it gets sweeter on the dry down. This thing lasts all day. It has a beautiful scent bubble. It's one of the few fragrances that I don't have to do this all day to my wrist. I can smell it, and the bubble is, you know, about an arm's length, so it's just perfect. It just kind of envelops me in this gorgeous rose, violet, vanilla gorgeousness. The oud is toned down towards the end of the fragrance. I love it, and believe it or not, this is a compliment getter. It must smell good on me, because every time I wear it, somebody says, you smell so good, or yummy, you smell so good. So, yep, Oud Satin Mood by Maison Francis Kurkdjian. Okay, I'm going to end the list with my most chic rose fragrance, and it is by the House of Fragrance du Bois, and it is called New York 5th Avenue. Yeah, this is my chic fancy pants rose fragrance. It's beautiful, and I feel really special when I wear this fragrance. I'm not gonna spray on the dabber. On the blotter. I'm gonna try to spray it in the air. I want you to see this atomizer. The spray is beautiful. Every time I spray in the air, and there's a reason why I don't do it on my videos, because the times I do that, it goes right in my eyeballs. And then I'm like down for the count, and I'm out for 30 minutes. And I usually film so late at night anyways, it's like 1 or 2 in the morning, so that doesn't work. But I want you to see the sprayer, so here we go. Can you see that? Oh my gosh, it's beautiful. Yeah, I didn't get in my eyeballs. Score. It is a gorgeous fragrance. Wow, that worked. So, beautiful rose. I get this rose, and then there is a citrusy note in the beginning. I think it's bergamot. It's always bergamot. So you get a rose, citrusy rose fragrance, or a scent, note, accord, combination, and then it has a note of caramel. You can definitely detect the caramely sweetness. It doesn't smell like caramel, but it has a caramely sweetness, which I definitely pick up, and it's just kind of mixed in there with the oud. They're all combined really, really beautifully. It's not overly oudy, but you can tell there's oud in there. Yeah, they're just all seamlessly so nicely blended. This one does have a powdery dry down, and it is a quiet fragrance. When I wear this is kind of like my little secret. I don't want anyone to ask me what I'm wearing, because I don't want to have to tell someone that it's this really expensive fragrance. Sometimes it's a little awkward. So sometimes I just want it to be between me and the fragrance. And this fragrance does that. Now, if you shower yourself in it, people will smell you, but I don't. I'll spray about 3 or 4 times. This was my most worn fragrance in the month of March. Something about it, particularly when it was like overcasty. When it was cold and overcasty, I wore this fragrance. I just got this comfort. It's just a comforting, luxurious fragrance that I just feel kind of special when I wear it. And sometimes you just need that little pick-me-up. You need to feel special. And this fragrance does it. I don't wear it all the time, but in the perfect moments, in the right time, I wear this fragrance. I haven't pulled for it in the heat, so I think for me, this is going to be more of a spring, autumn, winter fragrance. But very elegant, very refined. It does have a nice powdery dry down, if I didn't say that already. Just a lovely fragrance to end my list with, New York 5th Avenue. So that does it for my luxury rose fragrances. I had to step out of the room for about 5 minutes, and when I came back in, can I just say like how amazing this room smells. This room smells so unbelievable from all the fragrances. I really smell Oud Satin Mood the most though. Oud Satin Mood and New York 5th Avenue. Man, those smell so good together. But thank you for stopping by. Thank you for watching me. For those of you who subscribe and support me, I really, really appreciate it. And hopefully I will see you for the next one.